What I'm particularly concerned about is this draft bill has in there the provision to provide public funding for election campaigns. Now, I'm very clearly on the record about my concerns around donation disclosure and my views on donations to political parties. But what I'm particularly concerned this bill does is it gives public funding to the major parties for each election campaign. What it proposes to do is provide $6 for every vote that a candidate receives over and above 4% of the vote. Now, what that would mean for particularly the Liberal government, as we saw of the last state election, would be that they would receive almost $900,000 worth of public funding just for the privilege of being elected to serve the community. We know that we have a health system in crisis and a housing situation in crisis, and yet what we see here is a draft bill proposing to put public funds into the pockets of politicians and their parties. It's simply not good enough. It doesn't pass the pub test, and my submission clearly calls on the major parties to reject this absolute fraud that will be perpetrated on the Tasmanian public. Donations to political parties come at a cost. We've seen far too often elections bought by big corporations, and I believe that we need to have much stronger and tougher donation disclosures. Tasmanians deserve to know who are pulling the strings when it comes to political parties. And clearly in a state like Tasmania, we have a number of people pulling the strings of political parties. It's not good enough. It's done behind closed doors, and we need to be open and transparent when it comes to elections in particular. It would literally be public funding going into the coffers of political parties. It's simply not good enough, and I really call on the major parties to reject this proposal outright. Really, the political parties used to many years ago raise their funds through grassroots campaigns with their membership base, but we can see over a number of years that the parties have become on the nose when it comes to members of the public, and their membership base have been dwindling. So instead of paying for their own costs themselves, they're now asking for big corporations to pay, of course, which comes with strings, and now they're asking for the public to fund them. Now, I think people in the community have had enough of politicians putting their hands into their pockets, and this is exactly what public funding would be doing with this particular provision. I want to see an open and fair, transparent playing field where people who actually care about Tasmanians, who want to contribute and serve the community, can run for election, afford to run elections, and also get elected. Now, just as the Liberal government would achieve a massive win under this proposed legislation, so too would Labor. They would achieve a huge win. I haven't done the numbers in that particular one, but I suspect it would be in the vicinity of around $500,000. And certainly Labor could provide a true opposition if they stood firm on the government on this particular issue. But I suspect what we'll see is a deal done between the two major parties, and this will go through.